Hello and welcome to my channel. Today I am sharing 5 new and easy DIY crafts in celebration of the Easter season. We are doing it on a budget as always. Let's get started. This project has a frame and kind of like a canvas material, but you could definitely get one of those small flat canvases from the Dollar Tree, and it was a wooden frame. I believe this may have come from Dollar General, like in their clearance section, but the back comes out super easy. You could use any frame that you wanted and either put like a flat canvas in there or a piece of cardstock. It would really work with a variety of different items. But I have this one and I'm painting it white. It had something on there previously. I have this floral transfer, so beautiful. And I'm not sure where this is from, but you can get them from the Dollar Tree. You can get them from Amazon. You can get them from IOD. You can also decoupage a floral napkin or something else if you do not have a transfer. You could also just do a floral scrapbook piece of paper. That would work really well for this. Or it doesn't have to be floral at all. I was going with floral. I think florals are pretty for spring. And we're doing these Easter DIYs, which is obviously in the spring season. So however you want to do it, get your design or pattern on the back part of your piece. For the frame, this is stained, kind of like a gray stain. You can still see the wood grain through it, but I'm going to dry brush on some white paint as well. You can see the texture coming through, so it didn't really at first go on the way I wanted it to. I probably should have used a different paintbrush, but it all worked out in the end. I love how it came out. So I'm just going to dry that down because I am going to sand it as well, and I didn't want the paint to smear. I did want to sand it off. I also sanded the edges of the frame to bring up some of the wood. This will obviously, if you wanted to do something like this, is going to vary based on the pieces that you have. You can get frames at the Dollar Tree. Thrift store is a great place to find frames. I even often find frames that are completely brand new, like with the plastic and stuff on them, but paint it the way you like. This wood cross was in my stash. I believe it came from Hobby Lobby, and I'm going over it with a little bit of antique wax and a stencil brush. I'm dabbing off a lot of the stain before I brush it over the cross because I didn't want to go too heavy. I wanted to be able to build on it, and then I'm just dabbing it off with a paper towel to just kind of wipe it down. That'll also help it dry quicker, but however you want to do that. But I thought that this would be a nice contrast. However, when I went to put the piece together, I felt like the wood was too much of a contrast to the frame, so I also dry brushed over lightly with some, I think this is Silver Lining from Waverly chalk paint, just to get the look that I wanted. We're going to add on a little bit of hot glue to our cross. Because this one has like all the cutouts, I just put it on a few pieces that were thicker that I thought I could get the glue on there without it oozing out the sides. You could also use a super glue gel or really just a craft glue. It's not a heavy piece, but I went with the hot glue because it's handy for me. I have it going while I'm working on lots of projects. We're going to pop this into the back of the frame, and you're going to just reassemble it for however it would work for whatever piece that you are using. This is very simple, but I did want to explain to you the different ways that you could do it if you don't have the exact pieces. So many different ways of getting this similar look. I loved having a pretty pattern in the back because this cross had all of the cutouts, so you could just kind of gently see it through the cross without taking away from the cross. Let me know what you think about this one down below. For this project, we have one of those wooden blocks from the Dollar Tree, and I am giving it a coat of white paint. I'm just using, I think it's Snow White by Waverly. These wood pieces do take paint really well, so you could also use some acrylic paint if that's all that you had on hand. You may have to do a second coat with an acrylic paint just because it's a little bit thinner. Then I have a couple of wood crosses. These are from Hobby Lobby, and this one had a print on the back. It was just writing stating basically that it was from Hobby Lobby, I guess because it didn't have a tag on it. So I sanded that down a little bit to make it easier to cover that with paint. I am going to paint this first cross on the back and the sides with white paint. There is a front and back to this project, but the back would be visible. And so I just wanted to paint it white, and that's why I sanded down the writing, because I didn't want that to be, what was seen from the back of the project. For the smaller cross, we are just going to use some antique wax. I am brushing this on with a small paintbrush. You can also use a baby wipe. With antique wax, it kind of depends on how thick you put it on and how fast you wipe it off. If you do wipe it off, how thick or how dark the coloring will be. If you do not have antique wax, you can definitely just use a brown paint. And if you want it to be more like a stain, go ahead and water down that brown paint a little bit and you will get a similar look. I had these stickers in my stash. I really kind of wanted to use the first one, but because it wouldn't fit fully on the block, I felt like where it would be cut off would look weird. So this one I thought was also pretty, and I cut it off in a way that made it make sense. And just going to place this sticker on. I don't know where this came from. I think this came from like a journaling event that I went to. So just something in your craft stash, something that you can find at a craft store. You could also, once again, use a rub-on transfer or a napkin, whatever you want. But I thought it would be a pretty accent for the front of this piece. Now I am just using some hot glue to attach this to the smaller cross to the larger cross. And I didn't put any antique wax in the back because antique wax tends to get in the way of glue working well. And then I'm going to just take this little wooden skewer. These are just from the Dollar Tree, like from the barbecue section. Cut them down with some little dog nail clippers that I picked up from the Dollar Tree and hot gluing that to the bottom. I don't know why I did 2 of these too high. It really didn't make sense. What I was doing for the first one I put on there was just giving me more surface across the bottom to put some glue to attach this to the top of the block. So the second one, not necessary. And now I'm going in and adding a little bit more hot glue. I'm adding this to help just make sure that it is going to stick really well, but also to give a place for my moss to stick. So this is just some floral moss from the Dollar Tree. You don't need a lot. A little bit goes a long way. And yes, moss is a very messy material, but it's easy to clean up. And I just keep mine in a plastic bag to contain it. And then I just clean up my work surface. So to me, the look of moss is worth the mess of the moss. So I'm just putting some of this around the base of the cross, tapping it into the glue with my scissors and then trimming it down a little bit. And I thought this was really pretty. I like the florals on the front. You could also put words on the front. You could put "He is risen" or something along those lines if you wanted, but I thought the florals just added a nice pretty color touch. Let me know what you think. For this project, I'm using a wooden pallet sign from the Dollar Tree. I have previously used it, painted it, and all of that. So I'm just painting over it again with some white paint, but this just comes in like a natural wood from the Dollar Tree. They have lots of great wood blanks, but so does Hobby Lobby and Walmart and thrift stores often. So anyways, I am giving this a coat of paint. Now, this had some chippiness to it that I'd used on a previous project. I often use my DIYs for a little while and then take them apart and make new DIYs because I make so many for my channel. So I enjoy them pieces for a little bit and then make something new. But because of that chippy look, it has a chippy texture, but I'm okay with that. I had sanded it down, but it wasn't perfect. Anyways, I gave it a coat of paint and then I'm using some sandpaper with a little scraper tool to get in between to sand away a little bit from inside the cracks there. Or not the cracks, the lines in between the pieces of wood. And then I'm going to highlight it with, I guess they're kind of cracks. We're going to highlight it with a little bit of antique wax, just a little bit on my paintbrush, not too much. And then I'll go over the whole piece and do that as well. I just kind of went with a more rustic look, but you can certainly go with a more polished, clean look. I have another wood cross from Hobby Lobby, and I'm going to give this a coat of white paint. If you are enjoying this video, please give it a thumbs up. That lets me know that you are enjoying my video, and it also lets YouTube know that you're enjoying my video, and then they're more likely to share my video with others. Also, if you'd like to say hello down in the comments, or if you don't know what to say, just leave me an emoji to let me know that you're here. I would love that. Once the paint is fully dry, we're going to give it a coat of Mod Podge. You will not be seeing this. We're going to do the iron-on method for decoupage, and so it doesn't matter if you use the matte finish, the glossy finish, whatever. I just use whatever I have on hand, and you want to let this Mod Podge dry completely. you want to do a pretty good coat, not like goopy, but a good thick coat. Once that is fully dry, we're going to take some tissue paper. I used this beautiful tissue paper in another video recently that you can check out. I'll have that in the little iCard above here that you can click on. And this is from the Dollar Tree. It's so pretty. And I'm just going to lay some parchment paper down on top of the tissue paper and use my little mini heat press that I got from HTV Rent. But you can also use a household iron if you don't have one, although these little mini irons are very handy to have in your craft room. But if you use your household iron, just make sure that you use it with no heat or no steam and iron on your tissue paper. It will reactivate the Mod Podge and make it adhere. And then I'm using a sandpaper to sand away and sand off the edges. And then I do like to go onto it one more time with the iron to just kind of seal it back in case anything got moved while I was sanding it. And then I'm just showing you here because I did not record it. I thought I was, that I hot glued the wood cross on, and then this little wood heart from Hobby Lobby. I think I got it from Valentine's clearance. I put that on top because the heart really speaks to the love of Jesus and the sacrifice that he gave for us on that cross. And even though the cross itself is not a beautiful symbol in and of itself and what took place on it, it is a beautiful symbol of what it represents and what was accomplished with the work on the cross. I love how this little sign came out. This metal cross came from the Dollar Tree. You can see it says Crafter Square on there. And it is not an Easter item. So it's cool. It's something you can find any time of year, depending on your store. I know that they all carry things, in different ways. I went to a really, really great Dollar Tree the other day. I didn't buy a lot. We were out of town and I stopped at one and I was so excited. Anyways, those metal pieces do come with a little protective plastic piece. Wasn't sure I needed to take it off for this project, but I did. And I'm going to use a lot of hot glue and this floral moss from the Dollar Tree. And if you need to use finger protectors, do so, because obviously the hot glue can come through. And I am just pressing in. I'm using a good amount, so it's really not coming through. But what I want is to make sure that the moss goes all the way to the edge of this piece. But in doing that, to make sure it's not hanging over the edge, it's kind of like I put the hot glue near the edge, and as I press down the moss, it flattens it out and kind of pushes it all the way to the edge. I don't know if that is making sense. I don't know that there's a wrong way to do this, but I did want to explain how I was doing this. I also wasn't worried in the end if you couldn't see all of the curves on the cross, as long as we can see that it is the shape of a cross. The details of this particular cross didn't really matter to me in how this project came out. I did use a lot of hot glue for this, but I did not use a lot of moss. When I started this project, this bag of moss was brand new, and I'm going to show you how very little it used in the end. But you're going to cover this entire piece, and then we're going to trim it off so that it's not too haywire, and to make sure we have the shape of the cross back. Sometimes, the moss can get a little crazy and you lose the shape of the object that you are covering with moss. And so I'm just going to give that a trim, and then I'm also going to kind of shake off any excess, because otherwise it's just going to fall off later. And then I figured this way it would reveal any places that I needed to add a little bit more moss in to make sure that you couldn't see the metal. You could also give the cross a coat of paint in the beginning if you wanted. Here you can see very, very little moss was used, and I'm going to put those little scraps back in. But you could paint it if you wanted before you put the moss on, in case you see any of it coming through, but I really wasn't worried about it, and it was not a problem. So my little tip, store that mouse bag inside of a plastic bag, and I always keep the tag if I remember, so that I can show you guys when I use it in the future. I use my little handy dandy vacuum and then just some cleaner or water bottle to clean off my surface before I continue on, because the moss is dirty. It leaves a lot of dust behind, and I didn't want it to get on the rest of my project. So yes, moss is dirty, but I love the results. So we are going to assemble our project with this piece. This is a frame that came from the Dollar Tree that the back just came out really easily. I think it had a floral pattern or something on it. I'm not totally sure, but I covered it with just a piece of cardstock that I have that is like this not burlap. This, I don't know how to looks like craft paper, but it's cardstock. I will try to remember have all of that linked down below for you. I got it from HTV Ront, a great deal on it, and it's lasting me forever, but I just liked that kind of neutral background. So whatever that looks like for you, for whatever frame you use, and then I'm going to hot glue our cross onto the center of this and just making sure that everything is as so. I found a spot where the metal was kind of peeking out, and I'm just going to cover that up and smooth the moss over it. And then I have these words. I think this was a 4-pack from Hobby Lobby for $1.99. I got it last year when it was on clearance, but at the very least, it's either 40 or 50% off now. So a really good price for that. And then I'm just painting it white, and I'm not using too much paint on my paintbrush because it's fine writing, and I didn't want any of the paint to get goopy in there. Once it's dry, we're going to add a little bit of hot glue to the back and place this onto the center of our cross. And I thought the white really just kind of stood out there, but you could leave it in the natural wood as well. And we're going to pop this back in the frame that came from Dollar Tree. I did not paint the frame or anything because I really liked it, but you can use anything. It doesn't have to be a frame. It could just be another sign. Put that on top of it, however you want to do that. But I love how this one came out. I love the mossy look for Easter and springtime. I love it. This wreath form came from Dollar Tree in a pack, I believe, of 2. And then this burlap ribbon also came from Dollar Tree, but you could use any material you have. We're just basically covering this up. We are going to make a wreath that I am not fully covering. The ribbon is going to be seen. If you use more florals or other material, then you wouldn't see it through as much, but I like the look of this. But either way, it is easier to attach stuff to the wreath if you don't use just the metal form itself. It's hard to get things to attach, but you can do it using floral wire or like twine if you want. But anyways, I'm wrapping mine with the burlap ribbon, and I didn't even use the whole roll of ribbon. It's a 9-foot roll. And we're just going to hot glue at the beginning and the end and call that good for the base of our wreath. Now I have these little rings. I thought this was honestly a leaf garland. Maybe I didn't think that when I bought it, but this is a pack from Hobby Lobby that I got on clearance from Christmas, and it turns out it was just wreaths. It was Christmas, but this viney garland stuff is not Christmassy to me. I feel like it can be used all year round, but the wreath does come apart. So that's what I'm doing. I had a scrap piece of garland already, but it didn't quite match the leaves on this. So anyways, we're going to wrap this around, and I'm going to just kind of decide on the spacing as I go. And it's wired, so I just kind of tucked it in at the beginning and the end and like folded it, creased the wire. But keep in mind when you're looking at Hobby Lobby and other craft stores that you can buy things that the packaging might say seasonal, and therefore you're going to get it marked down, but it may not have to be a seasonal piece. So just keep that in mind. And then I'm using some scrap florals. I'm pretty sure these came from Dollar Tree, but I have a bag with lots of different scrap pieces. And as it turned out, I was able to just tuck the pieces in the crevices from where I had wrapped the ribbon. And I wish you could see me right now. I'm totally talking with my hands trying to describe it, but you guys can't see my hands. But you can see my hands in the video and see what I'm doing. So if you want to make it more secure, feel free to use some hot glue. But tucking it in there worked out well, kind of like you do on a grapevine wreath. I am not putting a ton of florals. I'm keeping it pretty minimal, but you do how you want to do it. And then I left a piece blank because we're going to attach another cross. This is from Hobby Lobby. This one that I ended up using has a little hanging piece, so I guess it would be like considered an ornament. I'm not really sure, but we're going to take that off. I didn't have to fill in the hole because I knew I could cover it up with the florals, and if I filled it in, I was going to then have to paint it, and I didn't want to do that because the words were attached to it. Anyways, I made it work without filling in the hole. So I just hot glued the cross onto the wreath wherever it had any touch points, and then put a tiny bit of hot glue and just gently laid one of the pieces of floral on it. Tried to make it look exactly how it would if it was just naturally laying there. I just showed you also some other things you could use if you didn't have the floral picks. You could just add these different flowers just to give you different ideas. But I did have these butterfly stickers from the Dollar Tree. They have the little glue or a sticky dot, but I added some more hot glue on just to help it stick better. And when I saw them, I was like, oh my gosh, the colors of this are perfect for to go with the flowers. And butterflies are great for spring, but butterflies also represent the transformation from the caterpillar to the butterfly. And we can receive a similar transformation when we receive Christ as our Savior. And He just changes us from the inside out into a new being. So I thought that was a beautiful touch for the wreath. Well, that is going to do it for today's video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. And if you're new to my channel, I would love it if you would consider subscribing to my channel before you leave so that you don't miss out on my future budget-friendly DIYs. I'd love to have you part of my little YouTube family. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye, guys.